Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Tevis-Finn recording from Franklin. So welcome to the Rise of Industrial America. I have titled this presentation From Farm to Factory. So there are going to be 9 ingredients for success. And so you guys can either follow along in the guided notes that I have posted, or you're welcome to just make a list of these 9 key factors. So I want to open up with this picture just to remind you of our past. For even the early 1800s, most Americans were farmers, and so we were an agrarian society. Think of Thomas Jefferson. So we transformed in less than 100 years, guys. So by the late 1800s, America was the world's leading industrial nation. So my question is, how did we get there? And so here's my list. So you guys are welcome to, again, see these on the outline, or just make note of these as I go through each one. So natural resources is our first one. So I just gave you these 2 pictures, one of a coal mine and one of an oil field, just to remind you that our land was full of, iron, petroleum, timber, coal. We did not have to import from other countries, so cheap and abundant. And so beautiful picture of the land out west. And so guys, for number 2, I just want you to know that this really also was a kind of natural resource, just this abundant land that was rich in resources. Settlers and miners developed this area, leading to more industrialization back east. And so guys, the third factor is the railroad. Simply put, it's just bringing people out west, and then bringing resources to factories back east. And part of number 3, I want you guys to know this historic event. So I've spelled it out for you both here and on the outline. So at Promontory Summit, guys, 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad became reality. So what it did, guys, just note that it connected 2 major railways. So one came from the Great Plains, to Utah, and that was called the Union Pacific Railroad. And the other was, coming from California, and it would go eastward through the Rockies to Utah. So this was, guys, important because it's the first of many lines that connected our nation. And so 4 really talks about the workforce, and this also could be seen as, human resources. For a note on this map that between the years 1870 and 1910, 17 million immigrants came to the United States. So really a never-ending supply of labor. So guys, this time period saw almost a tripling of our population. Part of this for number 5 goes along, why are all of these immigrants coming? Look at this. Look at some of the numbers, guys. In the 4 millions over here, up here, over 3 million. So you guys should note that the timing was perfect, to benefit us, for there were social and economic conditions in Eastern Europe and China that drove millions of people to emigrate to the United States. So timing is part of this list of ingredients as well. And so guys, the 6th one is ingenuity. And I have, 2 big categories, inventions and technology. If you guys don't know who I have pictured here, Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Alva Edison. So let's talk first about Thomas Edison. Just a few key things you guys should know is he really had this invention factory, set up in Menlo Park, New Jersey. He set up this lab with money made from improving the telegraph for the Western Union. This became a place where he developed more than 1,000 patents. So, the ingenuity that leads to so many discoveries, it really is epic. So you guys could put down a few things. 1877 was the phonograph, and 1879 was the light bulb and the generator. So to conclude, guys, 1882 his company began supplying electricity to New York City. So his company today is known as General Electric. So, you know, a long-lasting legacy. Similarly, guys, Alexander Graham Bell, also inspired by the telegraph. He was a Scottish immigrant, and his work with the telegraph inspired him to transmit sound by electrical currents. So, guys, the telephone created explosive growth for business and people. 1877, he organized the Bell Telephone Company. And so, guys, for there, I want you to know his company today is called AT&T, or American Telephone and Telegraph Company. So, just like Edison, you know, those companies have lasted all the way until today. All right, so number 7 is all about government and economics. And so, you guys probably remember what laissez-faire means, but you should define it as let people do as they choose. And so what it means is that the government was really hands-off. It was a free enterprise system based on the belief that government should not interfere. The government really should only protect private property rights, and we should just rely on supply and demand to regulate wages and prices, you know, not the government. You know, they were all for low taxes, you know, so that individuals could accumulate the wealth and spend it how they wanted to. So here's two great pictures. Government Out of Sight, an actual book about laissez-faire, and then check out this cartoon, Bosses of the Senate. So these guys are representing big business, growing very fat, and the Senate having no say whatsoever. Alright guys, number 8 is going to be our longest section, and I want you to know these 4 individuals. So I'm talking about this age of entrepreneurs. So if you don't know what an entrepreneur is, I want you to define it. It's, you know, it's someone who takes financial risk to organize a new business. Many at this time, guys, were lured by the prospect of making money in manufacturing and transportation. Some came from New England because they had profited in textiles, for example, and now they saw their time to invest in factories and railroads. Some even came from foreign investors, for example, from Great Britain. So the question I have is, are these gentlemen robber barons or captains of industry? So robber barons really were people that exploited an industry through unfair business practices and gave nothing back to society. Captains of industry, you guys should note, were entrepreneurs, but they contributed positively to society, such as you know, through charity, through philanthropy. So guys, the order we're going to go in is we're first going to look at Cornelius, then we're going to look at Andrew Carnegie, then we'll look at John D. Rockefeller, and lastly we'll end with J.P. Morgan. So I have some great photos here for Vanderbilt's legacy, but let's make sure you guys know what led to Grand Central Station. He's one of the most successful railroad consolidators. So guys, put down by 1869 he purchased and merged 3 New York railroads to form New York Central, which connected New York City to Buffalo. He then extended his control to Chicago. So 1871 he began working on New York's Grand Central Station. So you can see the early work here, and then if you've been to it, I mean, it is just a gorgeous terminal. So we're going to be getting into Andrew Carnegie and the steel industry. So I have some photos here. I kind of want to jump to this one right here to show you that he really stands for the true rags to riches story. Here's his childhood home in Scotland, and I mean, look at this beautiful, if you've ever been, it's amazing. Carnegie Hall in New York City is part of his philanthropy. So how did it all happen? You guys should put a little bit of biography down for him. He was a poor Scottish immigrant. He started off just working his way in small jobs, but as a railroad supervisor, he, you know, really took advantage of investing in companies that all related to the railroad industry, such as iron mills and factories that made sleeping cars and railroad bridges. He visited Europe, and that's where he learned this process for making steel. So it's Sir Henry Bessemer, who was the inventor of this process. It's really a converter for making high quality steel efficiently and cheaply. It basically poured the molten iron into his converter and then used air. Once the air was blown in, it separated out the impurities, leaving behind the high-grade steel to pour out. Just imagine how dangerous this job was. So part of this is the development of the steel industry. So guys, the first steel mill was opened in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 1875. Any Pittsburgh Steeler fans out there? Let me know. So an important business practice that he used, I have down there on my list, is vertical integration. So I want you guys to know he perfected this. So what he did is he owned all of the different businesses on which steel depended on for its operation. So guys, he bought coal mines, limestone quarries, and iron ore fields. So instead of paying companies for these resources, they were his. So I have a great picture to show you what vertical integration looks like. But before I get there, I want you guys to know what gospel of wealth means. So it's his version of social Darwinism. So it's his belief that if you're wealthy, you should engage in philanthropy and use your fortune to help people help themselves. So not to just give the poor a handout, but instead to build things like schools and hospitals. I mean, he really built many public libraries, and Carnegie Hall is obviously another example of his philanthropy. And so take a look at this picture showing the difference between vertical, and we'll also look at horizontal integration with the oil industry. So this just kind of shows how it's set up. Okay guys, next I have John D. Rockefeller. So he saw opportunity when oil was discovered in Pennsylvania. So instead of going after drilling the oil, he built oil refineries. And by 1870, his company, Standard Oil, was the nation's largest oil refiner. By 1880, I have here, Standard Oil controlled 90% of the industry, becoming a monopoly. So guys, a monopoly is when a single company has control of the entire market. He achieved it through horizontal integration. So put that down after you define what a monopoly is. So guys, horizontal would be combining firms in the same business into one large corporation. So when companies lost their place in the market, they would sell out to competitors to create a larger organization. So imagine like if Target and all those other kinds of stores all sold out to Walmart. That would be horizontal integration. And I want to finish up with J.P. Morgan. He's the most famous investment banker. So guys, his specialty was helping companies issue stock. Companies would sell large amounts of stock to investment bankers like J.P. Morgan, and they would get it at a discount. And so then bankers like Morgan would find people willing to buy the stock, and they would sell it, and they would make a profit, right, because they got it at a discount. So guys, in 1901, you need to know he bought out Carnegie. He merged Carnegie's steel with other steel companies into an enormous holding company called United States Steel Company. U.S. Steel became the first billion-dollar company in U.S. history. Here's a picture of their stock. And to finish up with number 9, this is the last kind of key ingredient, is that the government in a way was also hands-on with high tariffs. So if you guys don't know the role of tariffs, I mean they really do kind of help and hurt us, but the Civil War led to a massive increase in tariffs. Also land subsidies to the railroad. So we sold vast amounts of public land to railroad companies, much less than market value. Tariffs really go against laissez-faire. So when tariffs go up, other countries raise their tariffs on American goods, which does hurt American companies overseas. So really, it's not until about the early 1900s, when American companies were more modern and efficient, that they felt that they could compete internationally in a free market economy, so that their goods would be able to be sold abroad, and then they also our country could also import from other countries. This is Mrs. Tevis-Finn. pretty much ready to sign off. I just want to make sure you guys review the 9 key factors for how we got to being a farming society to the world's leading industrial nation.